Welcome to Just the Two of Us Homestead. We are Colleen and Frank, and we live in the perfect size homestead just for us in southwestern Quebec. Gardening, growing food, and preserving is one of our passions. And our barn animals, we love them so much, they're just like pets. And we're so fortunate to be able to live our lives as we do. Each and every day is a blessing. Hello friends, I'm back with a few supper meals for the Pantry Challenge, and tonight we're starting off with one of our favorite meals. I'm going to make hot chicken sandwiches, and I'm using our homemade bread and really not much else from the pantry, but it's a really good supper. I cooked up one of our chickens, a whole chicken from the freezer, and I use dark meat. Frank uses white, so it works out quite well. And unfortunately, there's never as much dark as there is white. And we will use the rest of this chicken later on during the week. Now, the secret to a good hot chicken sandwich is putting gravy in the middle as well. And we put a mix of barbecue sauce and hot chicken sandwich sauce. And you're going to think, oh, she's putting a lot of gravy. By the time I walk to sit down to eat this, the bread just absorbs a good part of it. So it's not, I don't know if it's the homemade bread or what, but it just sucks it all up. And then no sandwich is complete without peas. These are just canned peas. I don't like frozen peas on this. It has to be canned. This is a very filling supper. It's very popular in Quebec. I don't know about the rest of Canada. Let me know if it's popular where you are too. And these are the home fries we make and freeze. And they're very convenient. I just take a few. I'm not too fond of French fries, so I'm just putting a few on my plate. And that is one fast supper that is delicious. Good morning-ish. Today, I'm hitting so many boxes or checking off so many boxes for the Pantry Challenge. For supper, I'm going to make potato salad because I'm going to use up some of our potatoes. We still have tons of potatoes. The red ones will go soft first, so I'm going to use those, and they're good for potato salad. We have tons of eggs right now. That's just the tip of the iceberg, and I put a lot of egg in our potato salad. We're going to have bean salad, and I'm going to make a rye bread, and we're going to use up some of our smoked meat and have smoked meat sandwiches with potato salad, bean salad. Normally, I always make my own mayo, but we bought this at Costco last year as a backup because one day I couldn't make my own mayo because my emulsion blender broke. That's the only way I can do it with my recipe. And I just checked the expiry date, and it's going to expire in 3 weeks. So I'm going to use that. I may still have to make some more. And I bought celery when I did my Christmas turkey for the dressing. I bought 2, and I've only used 1. So I'm going to use celery. And last night is when we had the hot chicken sandwiches. So I'm going to take the leftover chicken and turn that into sandwiches. And the leftover rye bread we can have with the chicken salad. And I took out some more zucchini bread. These are just 2 little loaves because we ate all the other ones. So the first thing I'm going to do is get the potatoes boiling and the eggs cooked. I cook mine in my, Instapot, and I'll show you how I do that. Okay, I'm going to add just about a cup of water at the bottom. And, oops, I washed all my eggs. And for this time, I'm specifically using all these little ones. A couple of our chickens aren't laying big eggs yet. They're still laying smaller eggs. And I find them hard to use in recipes because it's not really a good size egg. So using them in something like this is perfect.
For my Instapot, it's between 4 and 5 minutes. So I'm going to go, they're small, I'm going to go with 4. And then I'm going to let it rest for a few minutes. There we go. This is a new recipe to me. I've made rye bread many times, but I'm trying a new one today. This one's going to be more like an artisan loaf instead of like a loaf of bread. So we need 1.5 tablespoons. Oh, that was 2 cups of warm water. 1.5 tablespoons of yeast. 1.5 teaspoons of salt. 1.5 tablespoons of caraway seeds. And 1 cup of rye flour. That's all I have. Do you think it's a cup? I do. Whoa. Yep. It's 1.5 cups of rye flour. Yep. Whoa. Look at that. We're going to add in about 3 cups of all-purpose flour. So I'll do like 2 and a bit, and we'll see where we go from there. But I'm adding 1 cup at a time. I had to put in over 3.5. I don't know with boiling the potatoes and everything, if it's really humid in here. And I can't get a feel of the dough being the first time I'm making it. So I'm going to just do the last bit by hand. Well, that's okay now. All my olive oil is downstairs, so I'm just going to do it this way. Okay, it says to cover with a towel and put it in a warm place. So I'm going to put it on the stove because it's really warm with the potatoes boiling there.
I'm just cutting up the meat for the chicken salad. And there wasn't that much meat on this chicken. It was very, very small. So I was scraping for some chicken. And I love putting cranberries in my chicken salad. Do you guys put it in? Let me know. Because there's not many people I know that do this. But it adds such a nice flavor to the chicken salad. I absolutely love it like this.
Nicely doubled in less than the hour. Because it's really hot in here. So I'm supposed to make this into a ball by doing this. And then sit it on a a wood board. I'm struggling today, friends. I'm sorry. I'm trying to make it look good. And I keep saying, if Jessica can do it with a newborn and 8 other children, I can do it. It's a cutting board with cornmeal on it. So I'm just doing this till I don't see like any major holes or gaps. All right. So now it sits just like this for 40 minutes. And then we bake it. Well, that got way bigger than I thought it would. So I guess it's working. I took a 1/4 cup of water and just poured it into a bigger thing so I could stir it. It says to take a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, I don't know if I would do this all the time, but I'm doing it just for today. This is just to make the top like nice and shiny. And then we're going to base the top of it with this. Take our loaf, put it on our pan. I don't have one of those bread cutting razor things. I'm just using this. I'm supposed to cut lines in it. It's going into a 450 oven for 30 minutes. And it also says, this is something else you don't have to do, but it'll make the crust better, is to put a pan of hot water under it while it's cooking, just so there's a bit of steam in the oven. All right, for 30 minutes. The last time I made this, I got a lot of comments that a lot of you don't put egg in your potato salad. That's how I grew up eating it. My mother always did. So that's what I do. It's kind of like a potato salad in an egg salad. So I'm just going to mash up a bunch of, here I have 2, 4, 6. And I always put sliced ones on the top. And whatever's left over, we'll just eat as like hard-boiled eggs. Put the celery in. Some salt. Some pepper. There. I really don't have any pretty bowls. I have a couple of heavy crystal ones, but all right, just a few eggs to put on the top. I'm doing this one-handed because I cut my thumb and no Band-Aid is staying on it at the moment. Whoa, that went by fast. Hold on, I'll let you guys see it. I hope I didn't overdo it. I just did the 30 minutes. The outside is definitely hard. Bread's supposed to be between 190 and 200 Fahrenheit, and it's in the high 70s. It's creeping along, but I'm going to stick it back in for a bit more. Yeah, the dough's actually sticking to the needle. All right, so there's the potato salad. I always sprinkle a bit of smoked paprika on the top, but it's coming out like in big globs. Oh well. Okay, so that's going to go in the fridge to cool off and meld the flavors. I think there's enough. Well, I scraped every bit of it and I had just enough for the chicken salad. So that got used up. And that's going in the fridge. There, I'm just waiting on the bread. All the chicken bones, the skin and everything are going to go in the freezer towards stock or soup. So that'll be for another day. There we go. We're already at 194, so I'm going to stop there. Let that rest. And everything's ready for supper. Oops. Everything's ready for supper. The potato salad, the bread, the smoked meat, the bean salads in a jar. And I'll bring you back when everything's going on a plate for supper. I don't know if you'll see me, but you'll see my hands at the very least. So that's it. It smells good. I think it's going to be good. So we'll see you at supper time. I'm going to cut the bread. The only thing is I made my lines much too deep. I shouldn't have done that, and I know better. I don't know what I was thinking. So let's see how this goes. That's not going to be a sandwich part. It's looking good. Oh my gosh, it smells so good. So let's see. Okay, the smoked meat is vacuum sealed. So what I like to do is I'm just going to do one package at a time because I'm only going to have a small sandwich because of the salads. Frank isn't ready to eat just yet, so he can cook his own. But if you went to a deli, you would get smoked meat or pastrami stacked really high. So I've taken out a few packages because I'm making a small sandwich. I just need this little package, but we'll eat up the rest for sure. Frank will make his quite large. So I just need to heat it up like that. I'm just going to cut this in half. And then I have my stacked sandwich. I think I'll put mustard on this side too. And our potato salad. So that's kind of like a summertime supper, but using up the potatoes, the eggs, using a can, our smoked meat, homemade rye bread. Looks like a good supper to me. So we'll see you for the next meal.
Now it's the next night's supper, and we're going to use some of that leftover bread, and now we're going to use the chicken salad. And with that, we're going to have some homemade pepper soup. So I'm going to get that on the stove, and it's going to accompany the delicious rye bread. I am making this bread over and over. It was so good. And just to use up the chicken salad, and tonight we're just having a light supper of soup and sandwiches. And that's my kind of supper. I don't need a big heavy supper every night. I'm good just like this.
Hi, everybody.
delicious
Tonight's
homemade pepper
supper is a
soup from a jar.
classic
I'll link that recipe because
meatloaf
it's so
supper.
good.
I'm using
And
my
our chicken
mom's
salad with
recipe. I've done a
cranberries.
video
You
on it.
have to
It was
try it
probably
with
one of our
cranberries.
first ones. I don't even think I had a microphone then. So we're using ground beef, very, very lean, or like a 85-15. We're using our own potatoes, and I specifically went through them this time, and I did find some with some eye starting, so I'm going to be very selective from now on what potatoes I take. And probably for the next while, I'm going to be making suppers that really go heavy on the potatoes because there's still tons of them and they have to be used up. I'm going to be using our carrots as our one of our vegetables. We usually do two. And look, I mean, this is picked the end of July, beginning of August. I just can't get over it. Beautiful carrots. But I also put a carrot, that's my mom's secret ingredient, in the meatloaf. It makes it so moist. So I need a carrot for that. Whoa. 2 eggs from our chickens, breadcrumbs that I kept over time. I just grind them up in the blender. And I have to open a new package of our frozen onions, or you would use a small to medium onion. So the very first thing, my meat is almost defrosted. So I'm going to start peeling all my vegetables first, and I'm going to put my meat, the dishwasher's on, and it's pretty hot right here. So while I'm doing my potatoes and carrots, I'm going to stick the meat there, and I'll come back when we start doing the meatloaf. So I have my potatoes here. I can't find my usual potato pot. I don't know how one loses a pot, but one does. So I'm just going to add a bit of salt. So I have, sorry for the noise, I have Yukon Gold and Kennebec in here. Now, I never boil my carrots. I could either roast them, or sometimes what I do is microwave them. And I'm sure that's very controversial, but that's how I like them if I'm going to cook them that way. I just cover, I I don't like boiling them. First of all, you boil out half the flavor. And when I microwave them, I only have to put in a touch of water. And to me, they seem to retain a lot more flavor and form and whatever. So I just cover them with plastic wrap. I have a little knife. Oh, I'm very shaky today. I make a few little holes, and then I'll do it for about 20 minutes, and at 10 minutes I stir it up, but I'm not going to put them in just yet. Either that or I roast them. That's usually the two different ways I cook them. So that's done. Now, for the very first thing for the meatloaf is we're going to soak the breadcrumbs. Normally, when I make this recipe, the recipe calls for 2 pounds of ground beef. And I would normally cut it in half and only do 1 pound because that's plenty of meatloaf for the two of us. And this time I didn't separate the meat though. I left it, it's almost 2 pounds. It's just a couple of ounces short. So I'm going to do the full thing, and we'll just be eating lots of meatloaf, and apparently that's not a problem. So I'm going to do the full recipe, and I don't even have to tell you I'm cutting it in half or anything. So we're going to soak the breadcrumbs. So we're going to take 1.5 cups. You can use seasoned breadcrumbs. You can use whatever you normally use. And I'm just eyeballing it. I'm not going to measure out just for that, but. And 3/4 of a cup of milk. Oh, I should have brought you in close too. So I'm just going to let them soak for a minute while I get everything else ready. So we're going to need 2 eggs. Just going to beat them up first. I'm going to do all my ingredients here before I add my meat, because the less you play around with your meat, the less tough your meatballs, your meatloaf, anything like that. So I always mix everything first before I add my meat. So that was supposed to be a small onion, medium to small. Because I'm confusing everyone, I'll put it in the description for sure. So a medium carrot grated. Okay, and then our breadcrumbs. A couple of teaspoons, well, she says 2 teaspoons of salt. I've never done that. I do about a teaspoon of salt. I'd rather salt it on my plate than put too much in. And I'm doing about half a teaspoon of freshly ground pepper. Now I'll mix all this together. It's still a little bit hard in the middle, but it should be okay. Just a little bit. And I just get in there with my hands. So I just do mine on a cookie sheet, and I'm reusing a piece of foil that was just covering some bread. And yes, I do that. I reuse my foil. There's nothing bad on it. So then I'm just going to shape it into a loaf on there. I'm going to kind of start it here. And if I didn't say this earlier, I don't know if I did or not, this is going to be a meal for 2 nights. Like, I cooked enough vegetables, and since I'm doing the 2 pounds of meat, this will be a supper for 2 nights. So I'm just going to use the bowl that I had the onions in. Now, other than the carrot, the other really good thing about this recipe is the glaze, or it's like a barbecue sauce we're going to make to put on top. And I'm going to put part of it on now and the other part when it's cooked halfway through. So we need 1/4 cup of ketchup. Look how thick that is. I know I'm always bragging on my ketchup, but really, like, look, that is beautiful. So we need 1/4 cup. 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. And that's probably just about all I have. And 2 tablespoons of mustard. I just use regular mustard. That's what my mom did. I've never used Dijon or anything. This just makes the perfect barbecue sauce to put on top. Okay, and what I like to do is just take a fork, poke a few holes. So hopefully some of that sauce gets down inside. So I'm going to take about a third of it now and just spread it on the top. Because if I poured the whole thing on now, it's all going to get like baked away. So I just like to put a bit on it now, and the rest I'll put on just a little bit more than halfway through. So this is going to go into a 350 oven for at least 45 minutes to an hour. I always check it with a thermometer. And I'll see you back here when everything's ready. So there's about 20-ish minutes left. So I try and get it down the sides too. And getting the end piece is always the bonus. There, I'll put it back in. The other vegetable we're going to have is, we always have this with peas, with meatloaf, is this is our favorite brand of peas. We have frozen peas, but this is the kind we like with meatloaf. And I don't know if it's anywhere else, but in Canada, it's Le Sueur. So we are going to have those. So the carrots are ready. And all I'm going to do is put a little bit of butter in them while they're still very hot. And swoosh it around. Well, you're only seeing the after results, but I did make a gravy. I just took some of the little bit of juice from the carrots and water. I took some Better Than Bouillon, it's organic, some W sauce, some garlic powder, salt and pepper, and tapioca starch. And I just made a little bit of a brown gravy to go with supper. I only made a bit. I'd rather make it fresh again tomorrow than have leftover gravy. All right, I let it rest for a bit. I'll bring you in closer, but that, my friends, is a perfect meatloaf. Comfort food at its max. This isn't going to be my plate. I forgot a spoon. No, I didn't. There we go. Perfect meatloaf supper. We'll see you next time.